The ego surrounds you like a wall. It convinces you that by enclosing you in this way, it is protecting you. This is the ego's great temptation. It whispers, "Without me, you will be exposed, vulnerable, fragile. There are too many dangers out there. Let me guard you. Let me encase you." And yes, the ego does offer some form of protection. Without it, perhaps no one would endure the risks of life. It shields you, but in doing so, it imprisons you. It defends you not just against enemies, but also against friends. Imagine locking yourself behind a door because you fear an enemy might come in. But then, when a friend arrives, the same locked door keeps them out. To welcome the friend, you must open the door, and with it comes the risk of letting the enemy in. This is one of life's great dilemmas, one that requires profound courage to navigate. Few are brave enough to face it head-on. Most retreat into the comfort of their walls. And in doing so, they lose life itself. Life is inherently risky. Death, on the other hand, is entirely risk-free. Die, and you're beyond all worries. No one can harm you. No one can kill you. No illness, no anxieties, no uncertainties. Everything is over. But to live is to embrace uncertainty, to face countless challenges. The more fully you live, the more problems you'll encounter. Yet there's nothing wrong with that, because it is in wrestling with these challenges that you grow. The ego, however, is a subtle, cunning wall. It tells you, stay here, you'll be safe. But this safety is no different from death. It is the security of a seed encased in its shell, afraid to sprout because the world is vast, unpredictable, and full of dangers. Inside the seed's shell, everything feels safe and controlled. Or think of a baby in the womb. There's no place more secure, more comfortable. Everything is provided. No need to breathe, no need to eat, no need to worry. Yet would you want to stay in the womb forever? Comfortable though it may be, it is not life. Life begins when you step out of the womb, when you leave the seed's shell behind. Life begins with risk. The word ecstasy is instructive here. It literally means to stand outside, to step out of your shell, your safety, your walls. Ecstasy is the experience of freedom, of vulnerability, of letting the winds of life blow through you. It is the bursting forth of a seed, the birth of a child, the flight of a bird breaking free of its egg. The ego is your shell, your prison. To live fully, you must break free of it. Step out, be open. Only then will you find the vast, infinite world that lies beyond. Only then will you truly live. But fear cripples you. Just as a child hesitates before being born, clinging to the comfort of the womb, so too do you hesitate to leave your ego behind. The pull of the past holds you back, while the promise of the future calls you forward. You waver, caught in between. This hesitation is the wall of the ego. And while it is transparent, so subtle you might not notice it, it still encloses you. Many live their entire lives, or even lifetimes, without realizing they are trapped inside this invisible cell. But to grow, you must summon the courage to shatter it. You must break the ego on the floor like a brittle shell. Most people, however, nurture their egos, feeding them with praise, possessions, and status, unaware that they are nourishing their own private hell. Let me share a story. Mrs. Cochran stood by the coffin of her dearly departed husband, her son beside her. As the mourners passed by one, they offered their condolences. "He's at peace now," said Mrs. Croy. "What did he die of?" "Syphilis," Mrs. Cochran replied without hesitation. Another woman, gazing at the serene expression on the deceased's face, remarked, "He looked so content, so at ease. What was the cause of death?" "Syphilis," Mrs. Cochran repeated. At this point, her son pulled her aside. "Mother," he whispered, "how can you say that about Dad? He didn't die of syphilis. He died of diarrhea." "I know that," Mrs. Cochran replied, "but I'd rather they think he died a gentleman than know he died. Full of shit." This is the game of the ego. It compels you to be false, to put up a facade, to live a lie. It persuades you to be something you're not, to hide behind appearances. But this lie is the source of your suffering. Breaking free of the ego requires immense courage, for it destroys everything you've built around yourself, all the identities, all the masks, all the illusions. You will feel as though you are shattering into pieces. But what emerges from this destruction is a new being, fresh, untainted, and unbounded by the past. When the ego is gone, there are no more walls, no more boundaries. Wherever you are, you will see the infinite. You will live fully, abundantly, freely. But do not wait. If you've even the slightest sense that you are living behind a wall, break free now. Leap